Oh my God, you're going to love this. Who is this? This is the Institute for Research on Male Supremacism. There's a video, a panel on Title IX, Betsy DeVos and men's rights activists. And oh my God, it is chock full of bullshit with respect to men's rights activists. I can't even believe it. You're going to notice a couple of things. This is a lawyer coming up here. She never actually refers to the issue that is of concern to men and women. It's not just men. I mean, women are concerned about this stuff too. The due process rights of a man accused of assault or rape on a college campus. Now, as you know, not to beat this dead horse, you've heard it all before, the Dear Colleague letter in 2011 came out, removed due process rights, made the burden of proof on the accuser of a preponderance of evidence, a coin flip. Now, I'm not sure about the appeals process, but I think most of that was kind of a joke. And the penalty, of course, you're kicked off campus. It goes without saying that if a man raped a woman on a campus, and that rapist only goes through the kangaroo court system, he doesn't go to jail, does he? Well, Betsy DeVos came out with some new Title IX regulations. It changes a couple things, changes the standard of proof and changes some other rights for the accused. But basically, it's still bullshit. These cases need to be in court, legal system. So everybody gets their due process rights, everything is fine, and when the guy's convicted, he goes to jail where people who women belong for a very, very long time. But she does not once refer to this in her spiel. Now, maybe in the rest of the video, there might be some, I don't know. I picked her because she's like, well, men's rights activist. You're not going to believe this. So let's kick it off here and see what she has to say.
Alexandra Brodsky is a board member and co-founder of the organization Know Your Nine.
She's a lawyer as well, I believe.
She's currently a staff attorney at Public Justice, and she will be speaking to us about research that she has been doing about how men's rights groups have co-opted the framework of due process in order to undermine Title IX.
What we're saying is that if a woman is sexually assaulted or raped, it belongs in the legal system, not a bunch of feminist administrators at a college, especially when the stakes are so flippin' high.
I want to talk a little bit about men's rights, how men's rights activists have used due process arguments to pave the way for this rule in, going way back before Trump's election, as Jessica has sort of set our timeline.
Yeah, we started paying attention when the Dear Colleague letter came out in 2011. Are you surprised we might be concerned about men being thrown off campus for accusations? Just throwing it out there.
And I want to start off by saying one thing really clearly.
Which please do. Say it loud and clear for us.
Is that there is no actual conflict between supporting victims of sexual harassment.
I don't know of one men's rights activist or, female, male, whatever, that thinks sexual harassment shouldn't be adjudicated on a college campus. That's an administrative procedure. There's a code of conduct, the student code of conduct and all that stuff. If some dude is harassing a woman, that's the way it was before Title IX, Dear Colleague in 2011, dear. Title IX states this: no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Sexual harassment would fall under the discrimination area, I believe, or it would perhaps lead to her not having the opportunity to participate in college and all that, perfectly within Title IX. No one is making the argument that sexual harassment shouldn't be covered under Title IX. However, as you know, Miss Lawyer, we're not talking about sexual harassment. We're talking about criminal activity. Men's lives being ruined on the mere accusation on a college campus. You damn well know, but she keeps dancing around and never actually says it.
And treating people accused of those same harms fairly.
Depends on your definition of fair, doesn't it?
There's no philosophical conflict, in doing right by everyone. And there's no practical conflict either, because we know that we can design procedures that promote truth-seeking and give everyone the chance to be heard without unnecessarily burdening or traumatizing survivors like these rules.
You know, we have that system already. It's called the judicial system, don't you know?
So when I'm talking critically about due process arguments here, I really don't mean real good faith debates about how best to balance both sets of concerns. And I do think there's room for that.
No, there isn't. It's called the Constitution of the United States.
I mean the way that men's rights activists have weaponized sort of vague concerns about due process to advance their ultimate agenda, which is impunity for sexual harms, specifically for men.
Did you just hear what she said? Let me try to repeat it.
Have weaponized sort of vague concerns about due process to advance their ultimate agenda, which is impunity for sexual harms, specifically for men.
Do you know of anyone who is sane that is advocating for impunity for sexual harms for men? Which frigging universe is this woman living in? Where in the weird internet corners where there's who knows what are men saying we're trying to get impunity from sexual harms? What in the hell is this woman talking about?
And, they have been very explicit that this is their goal. This is not, me reading between the lines.
This is you imagining nothing that is real. No legitimate men's rights activist or normal person would say we need to get impunity for sexual harms for men. What the hell are you talking about?
These groups say in public that their ultimate goal is to stop schools from taking any action to address sexual harassment.
Because she knows the truth. She won't admit it. She knows the truth. Men's rights activists and other people, normal people, are saying, hey, you can't ruin a man's life merely with an accusation and a coin flip. That is wrong. It's against the due process of the United States and in a legitimate criminal activity. Somebody gets assaulted or raped. That belongs in the legal system, not in the freaking Title IX office. That's what men's rights activists are saying. You damn well know that.
And one way of achieving that goal, short of repealing Title IX.
Because that isn't the goal. None of what you say is true. It's a package of bullshit.
Is to erect onerous requirements that deter victims from coming forward to their schools and then tie schools' hands if and when they do receive reports. And
onerous requirements. There was just the opportunity for the guy to tell his side of the story. That's onerous now, is it, Ms. Lawyer?
This has been a tactic in state law campaigns going back, again, way before Trump, and now with these regulations, which I would say broadly, the regs include a bunch of changes to the liability standards.
And I'm going to skip this part because she breaks up here.
Essentially using Title IX as a vehicle to create new special procedural requirements just for sexual harassment complaints in schools. So I know that we're moving speedily, but just a couple of things I want to note about these arguments.
Okay.
One is that a baseline assumption of these sort of men's rights due process arguments is that the only fair process is a criminal trial.
The only way you can get a rapist put in jail is via a criminal trial. But let's not bring that up. That'd be an inconvenient fact.
And I think that has a lot of intuitive appeal to a lay audience.
Yeah, I'm one of them lay audience guys. I'm just, where's my beer, Mabel?
Because for a lot of people, they think Law and Order SVU, they think criminal prosecution, and that means that any process less robust than that is unfair.
It depends on how you define fair. But you have to admit, you cannot get a rapist in jail without going to the criminal court system. Can we at least agree on that?
Of course, as we all know, the vast majority of sexual harms are never criminally prosecuted, but actually more importantly for this argument, due process isn't a single checklist. It's not like there's due process means 5 requirements that apply in every circumstance.
It's called the Constitution of the United States, in case you missed it.
In law, and I think this lines up with our ethical intuitions, due process is a balancing test between the stakes at issue for the accused, the interests that other people have in the outcome, in this case, the victim or the complainant, and also the resources that are available. So
it's called the Bill of Rights. It's the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. you might want to brush up on that before you go into a courtroom.
That means that for the exact same harm, you're going to have a different process legally and ethically if it's a criminal prosecution versus a civil suit for money versus an HR workplace dispute versus a school investigation. This leads to another core part of the argument, which is that men's rights activists single out sexual harassment for special treatment.
It's not the sexual harassment we are talking about, dear. I'm going to keep repeating myself. We are... My God, what is wrong with this person?
We don't have in law like a different process for every different kind of harm. It's not like criminal prosecution for burglary looks like one thing, criminal prosecution for, rape looks entirely different. But what men's rights activists have been doing for years now, and which DeVos now has bought into as well, is the idea that there needs to be a special, separate process that handles only sexual harms allegations.
Excuse me. Let me just replay that so I make sure I heard it correctly.
Is the idea that there needs to be a special, separate process that handles only sexual harms allegations.
That's what Title IX Dear Colleague letter did. What are you talking about?
And, again, I think that there's a lot of room for good faith debate about what exactly student discipline should look like.
Someone who says they're raped or sexually assaulted, let the justice system take care of that so we can get that guy in jail. What do you say? No? Oh, so it's not about justice for the victim. Is that right? Is that because, hey, 90% of rapists never spend a day in jail. So you want to continue this bullshit kangaroo stuff so more rapists are let out to rape again. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense.
But there's no argument for why students accused of sexual harm should have a separate set of procedures, a separate set of rights.
But that's what the Title IX was.
Separate from students who have hurt their classmates in other very serious ways and might face suspension or expulsion. I know I'm running out of time. I just want to flag one other part of this argument, which is that sort of in a stunning hypocrisy, a lot of right-wing actors who are utterly unconcerned about white supremacy otherwise
I knew we would get to Nazis at some point.
Bolstered their due process arguments by saying that they're necessary to protect Black men from false accusations.
It's to protect every man. Color does not matter, dear. Men of every stripe and every color are being accused of things they cannot defend themselves, and they're getting removed from campuses. Did some of these things fall through the cracks prior to the Dear Colleague letter? Yes. And there could have been ways to address those instances. But instead of that, just blanket, boom, a man is accused, he's gone. That's bullshit. If you can call the Title IX office if some man does something horrible to you, you can just as easily call the police and get the man put in jail. But of course, the argument is simply this. You're going to re-traumatize the victim because she might have to testify. Title IX was the first step to get this less preponderance of evidence, the assumption of innocence, all the due process. They want to get that thrown out in the actual judicial system. And call me crazy, where's my tinfoil hat? They've taken a bigger step in Canada with Canada Law C-51. I'll try to find a link for it so you can read it if you don't know about that. And if you think it can happen here, you are absolutely incorrect. James Maxwell, thank you for listening.